What's up, guys? It's Friday, which is a great day because you get the whole weekend to look forward to. It's time for News Wave. Let's go through some different things that happened in the video game world yesterday and this morning. Let's get started. So there's two really big stories that took place yesterday. The biggest one is probably the NES Classic being dismissed by Nintendo. It is now being discontinued. And there's a lot of backlash on this whole thing, and it makes a lot of sense. The people I feel really bad about are the ones that have not been able to get it despite trying their hardest to pay retail price and not go through scalpers, because to be honest, scalpers suck. I was very fortunate to get mine at a time where people were thinking that the craze was kind of dying down. Some of them were showing up in stores more and more, and scalpers were getting down to anywhere from $90 to $100, which was pretty good considering at one point they were going for like $300 to $400 online during the Christmas craze. So I was very fortunate to grab mine at an okay price of $100. But now it's being discontinued, and scalpers are dancing in the streets right now because any stock that is left, which they are still going to sell through any stock that's left over in April at stores, any stock that's left over is surely going to be bought up by a couple people at this point. One person going into a Walmart buying 6 of them, or Target or whatever. And at that point, you're going to see them show up on Craigslist, eBay, Amazon, and they're going to ask more money probably than they did during the holiday season. They might even hold them, not even kidding, hold them until the holiday season coming up, 8 months from now, and sell them then. And really, no one knows why Nintendo just discontinued these out of nowhere. Like, out of nowhere. They're selling well. Every time they go into stock at a store, they sell out, whether it is because scalpers buy them or because people genuinely want to buy them. And it's weird. There's a lot of people just trying to figure out what is going on. Even myself, I'm trying to figure out why they discontinued it. Everyone just has theories out there. What I'll do is I'll make a separate video later on today going over this topic, because this is going to be a serious, in-depth look at this, because it's so weird to see this. But I think there are some legitimate reasons behind it, and I think some people have already come up with good reasons, myself included, just going through it and talking to you guys on Twitter and just in general in the world. And I think there are some legitimate reasons as to why they had to stop production on this, but I do think they should have continued anyway, mostly because I myself think other people would have loved to have this item at an okay price of $60 compared to the hundreds that will be charged to them. And at that point, you are forced to buy it from them. There is no hope I find it in a retail store. That's not going to be the case. You are buying it from scalpers. They are charging you a lot of money. I was really hoping Nintendo would not do this. There were some reports and rumors about a month ago saying that they were discontinuing it. Turned out to be false. Here we go now. They released a statement to IGN, to Kotaku, and everyone, and now here we are in a world where it is discontinued and scalpers are rejoicing. So yeah, keep your eye on the channel for a video later on today where we do go through all the different reasons that they could possibly be doing this, and maybe we can get to the bottom of why they are discontinuing what is technically one of the most popular systems next to the Switch right now. Speaking of the Nintendo Switch, we have solid numbers for once. Yeah, solid numbers for the United States. Now, I know a lot of times they're like, oh, it's outpacing the Wii. It's doing great. It's one of our best-selling systems ever. Well, now they've actually released numbers that are hard numbers for us to look at that show us just how well the Switch did in its first 28 days. Here we go. In its first 28 days in the United States, the Switch sold a total of 906,000 units. Of course, that's not the first 30 or 31 days for the full month, because remember, this is for March. So released March 3rd, you have 28 days from there on. And that's why we have a weird number of 28 days. These are just March numbers. We still have to get through April, which will be a very interesting month as well to see, considering at that point Mario Kart will launch at the end of the month, which will probably be a more boost to May. And then, of course, we have to wait for ARMS' Splatoon 2 to release. So April is going to be an interesting month to see. No real huge games are releasing in April that are like, oh wow, this is amazing, in like the beginning of April. Like I said, Mario Kart will be more for May, but overall, a very, very good launch month for them. Again, it's 28 days, it's their month, and overall, I think they did good there. Now, it was interesting to note that in that same release of numbers, they said they sold 925,000 copies of Zelda for the Switch, which means that they sold more copies of Zelda than Switches. Now, that confused me at first. I thought it was a typo or something, but I asked around to people on Twitter, and yeah, a lot of people are saying they bought Zelda for the Switch because they just couldn't find the Switch, and they just wanted to have Zelda just in case it sold out. So yeah, I do think people bought Zelda without the Switch. And it's kind of funny to think that you could have a game that has an attachment rate higher than the system that you would play it on, but I guess it's possible in this case. It's really funny to think because if Shenmue had that attach rate, it might have actually succeeded. If you don't know, Shenmue was so expensive to make, they would have had to sell like 2 to every Dreamcast owner at the time for it to actually break even, which of course did not happen. So what does this mean for the Switch? Well, it means it was a good launch. It outsold the PS4. Obviously that was going to happen. Outsells the Xbox One. Again, obviously that was going to happen, and it's really going to come down to the next couple months. The third month is the drop-off month for the Wii U. It was a big drop-off month. I'll be very curious to see how the Switch maintains its momentum going into May. It is very fortunate system to have Mario Kart come out on the 28th of April, which will obviously push systems through May. I think they will have a great third month, which is, again, when the Wii U dropped off. I think the Switch has an opportunity to just destroy Wii U numbers. It should, at this point, seeing these numbers and then the games coming up, the Switch should sell more than the lifetime Wii U units did in its lifetime in the Switch's first year. I'm going to say that now. It's going to happen. And good for Nintendo. They are definitely pulling out all the stops, letting all kinds of indies come on the marketplace with this system. They're releasing games every month, which is good because that was their biggest mistake with the Wii U, to have these droughts where nothing came out. Much different on the Switch, I will say that. So good for them. They have a gangbuster lineup for the first year with all of these games coming out, and we're not even at E3 yet. I mean, they're going to announce stuff at E3 that is going to blow us away. I have a feeling, because they're not going to show up with one game like Zelda last year. They're going to show up with a bunch of games for the Switch. So expect a lot, and I mean a lot of announcements. Expect third parties like Madden to come over as well, maybe Call of Duty. And at that point, the Switch is just going to jump. It's going to keep going. I do see it outpacing and outselling the Xbox One before the Xbox One is done selling. So look for that as well. Good on Nintendo. The Switch did well. Sticking with sales really quickly, the Pokemon Company managed to increase its revenue by a substantial amount from 2015 to 2016. If that was it all possible in the first place, Pokemon Go tremendously helped. They went from 2.1 million in 2015 up to 3.3 million in 2016. And yes, the biggest thing that they blame for that, if you want to say blame or I guess give credit to, is that Pokemon app. Pokemon Go was massive. It still is pretty big, but obviously at the time when it was out, it was pulling in so much interest in general to Pokemon that even older Pokemon games were selling like crazy. The newer ones, forget about it. Sun and Moon were huge hits. And obviously Pokemon cards took a big spike too, as they were saying. So overall, releasing that Pokemon Go app with Niantic, probably one of the best ideas they and Nintendo and Niantic had as a collaboration. So good on them. It just goes to show you, though, how powerful cell phones are now in the gaming market. I mean, you can release an app on it, and it'll do well to the point where it will then pull tons of people in for your other products. So that's very impressive. I'll be curious to see if anyone else leverages it that much, but I don't know if you're going to have another company or franchise show up on that scene like Pokemon and have that kind of effect. And if you were at all on Twitter today, you probably saw me tweeting about an interesting bundle. I was tweeting about this 2 days ago, thinking they were going to announce it on the Direct. And what it is, it's a Switch bundle that has Mario Kart 8 bundled with it. And it was leaked out on NeoGAF and GameFAQs and other boards. I think 4chan picked it up as well. And originally they leaked it and said that it was going to be a bundle that was mostly going to be available at certain regions. I was hoping it would show up in the United States, but it looks like it is going to be a Russia exclusive bundle. More than likely, this bundle exists to help push sales in Russia. To me, what that tells me is that sales in Russia are probably the poorest. And what I mean by that is Switches aren't selling as well there as they are in other regions. You just wouldn't bundle a game like Mario Kart unless it was selling well, because then you're just leaving money on the table. I assume there's some kind of discount built in there. You're not just selling the system and Mario Kart 8 for $360. That makes no sense at all. You might as well not even make the bundle. There's no markings or anything on the system. As you see, it's just the gray system like normal with Mario Kart bundled in. So I just assume it's there as a discount to help people pick up the Switch, maybe move along. Maybe it's like a $350 system or a $325 system or something. It's just there to help move systems in Russia. I would be very curious to see what the sales numbers are there. I assume they are not as good as some of the other larger markets, and that's why this bundle exists. No plans to release it outside of Russia. That's another big red flag that says, hey, Russia's not doing so well Switch sales-wise. Let's put something to entice people to get out and buy this Mario Kart 8 bundle is born. Also, if you missed it, Dragon Quest XI, which is coming out obviously over Japan, they released an interesting looking controller. Take a look at this. This is a controller for the PS4. Now, it might not look like it right now, but when flipped upside down, you will see it has all of the buttons, the joysticks, and the touchpad from the PS4 controller. This is an iconic slime monster controller, and it's very odd. Now, they also showed us pictures on how you're supposed to hold it, which looks like you just kind of grip it as best you can with your hands and use it, again, as best as possible. I can't imagine this is extremely comfortable. I think this is something you would take and put up somewhere as like a fun, hey, look what I have kind of thing for your collection. I just don't see this being very practical. I think you're just going to stick with your PS4 controller for Dragon Quest XI. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure. I haven't used one. It just does not look like the most comfortable controller in the world. Now, it is releasing July 29th in Japan, obviously, not here in the US. In Japan, July 29th, 9,980 yen, which does translate to $98. That's pretty expensive controller. Again, it's not something you are going to probably use. You will probably just put it up on a shelf somewhere, much like how the not well-known Final Fantasy X gun cons, for example, would be, where you would just put it up somewhere. Yes, there were gun cons for Final Fantasy X. A lot of people didn't know that. Next up, guys, we have some pretty crazy, pretty hard to believe news. It looks like Project Scorpio is going to be at E3. I know it's kind of a joke. Actually, technically, Scorpio was not officially announced to be there until a blog post came out yesterday that tells us that yes, Scorpio will be there. It was done over an Xbox Wire by Phil Spencer himself. He wrote, "I'm proud of the progress made with Project Scorpio and what it will mean for the creators who fuel the passion of gamers around the world. On behalf of everyone at Team Xbox, thank you for your continued passion and support. We're excited to unveil Project Scorpio and the amazing game experiences it powers at E3 this June." So there we go. Project Scorpio will be there, although I'm pretty sure we already knew it was going to be there anyway. They've hinted at it. They've basically told us. This just makes it official. It's in writing. It says, yes, it will be there. Now, they've already told us the specs. Get all that out of the way while they can. Give it to Digital Foundry. Let them explain it to us, especially people who don't really follow specs heavily. Digital Foundry did an outstanding job explaining everything that was going on. And at this point, you show up there with games and you show it off on the big screen. Now, they're going to run into one issue, and I noticed this with the PS4 Pro the same way, and I think this might be why it's kind of affected sales, where it has not been the best-selling system, the PS4 Pro. That's no secret. The regular PS4 sells better. The problem is, it's hard to show off 4K gaming to people who don't have 4K TVs, especially when they watch the stream through something that's pretty badly compressed with online streaming with YouTube or Twitch or whatever. It just doesn't look very good, especially when you're trying to push something like 4K and show them what's happening on screen. It's just going to look the same. That's the problem. So until you see it in person at like a kiosk or something like that, you're not going to be wowed by it, I guess you'd say. It's going to look just like whatever your resolution is on your TV, which would be something like, 1080p maybe if you're watching it through your web browser or a stream. And at that point, you're just not going to get the benefit of 4K. Nonetheless, it'll be great to see the frame rates that it can pull with 4K gaming, especially if they do things like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Madden, I don't know, just any of the big mainstream games that show up there. Maybe they'll show up there with something like Sea of Thieves, which would be cool. I don't think Phantom Dust will be there because that'll be out before then. It should be out sometime in May, I think. Anyway, any games that they can show that look demanding, because we can still see at least frame rate counters if they put them at the top, and we can be like, oh, that game is at 4K and it's running at 60 frames. There's value there. And that's it for Newswave today, guys. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me think about anything we talked about today, whether you're raging badly about the NES Classic being discontinued. Like I said, check out my video later if you want to really post on there and talk to me about what may have happened. I'll be happy to talk on that video when we go through that in the comments. Also, let me know what you think about any of the sales for the Switch. I think they are off to an awesome start. Worldwide sales probably over 2 million at this point going forward, and it's going to be interesting to see their reports that should come out later on this month that tell us exact, and I mean exact amounts sold through every region and their cumulative total so far. That'll be really cool to see as well. Also, let me know what you think. Are you excited about the Scorpio at E3? I think some people are, some people aren't. That's all for now, guys. I will see you next time.